We just had the first tournament of Season 2. Today I'll discuss all the duos that did well, which ones struggled, and I'll discuss some takes about the new meta. Let's get straight into it. So yesterday we had the Eval Cup and we had 4 different teams win games and earn money, the first of those being Chap and Flixie. Now this is a team that were very up and down during the off season. At times they looked good, at times not so much. They actually did quite well in the most recent Divisional Cup, finishing 4th. They have since of course changed their drop spot. They're no longer landing over at Classified Canyon, or New Sanctuary as it's now called. They are now landing up at the mountain where Vico and Malabuka were previously, and they looked decent from there. They got first of course in game 1, they also managed a second in the final game. Chap in particular looked very explosive. He had the most damage, he had the most eliminations. In that final game he hit an incredible solo clutch to secure that second place. He was looking unstoppable. Everyone knows that this team has a lot of quality. Are they back just in time for the big tournaments, with FNCS only about 2 weeks away? Game 2 was won by Focus and Thomas HD, a team that look like they are kicking on from what was a very impressive off season. They of course won 2 divisional cups, one in Chapter 6 Season 4 just after Globals, and the other one more recently in the previous season. These guys have looked very good. They're at the same drop spot they always have been at Rips Tides. I don't think they're going to show any signs of slowing down, and they will be contenders to potentially win the next FNCS. Game 3 was won by Darm and Demush. Now they're landing over at the new POI of Frigid Fortress. Previously they were at Clawsey Lodge. With that being taken out, it makes sense why they're looking for a new drop. However, there will be another tier 1 duo landing on them in the near future. More on that later. But listen, for now, Darm and Demush seem like they're turning it around. They've not been bad throughout the last few months. They've just not really hit the heights that maybe you would have expected. They haven't been able to win a divisional cup or anything like that, but they are still a top duo. We all know they have quality, and it'll be interesting to see how they get on in the next 2 divisional cups. They also had the highest kill win in this tournament with a 10 elimination victory royale. Game 4 was won by Akira and Karama, and these guys look great throughout the whole tournament. They actually came first in the opens round, and they are just so good at these kind of formats. Honestly, Def, Taxes and Akira and Karama doing well in the victory format. They are just too good. Akira was also fragging out during this tournament. He had the 2nd most eliminations and the 3rd highest damage, clearly showing that the spotlight shouldn't always be on Karama. He is a great player in his own right too. And listen, it's very interesting when we talk about these guys' ceiling. I do believe that they should be qualifying for the Summit LAN. If you don't know, that will be the top 20 teams from EU FNCS Major 1 that will qualify for the LAN in Dusseldorf. And honestly, with the quality Akira and Karama have, they should be reaching that. Can they get a top 10? I honestly think that could be on the cards. Listen, I do think these guys have some issues that they need to overcome. Firstly, they're not as explosive as some other teams. Yes, Akira did well in terms of fragging in this tournament, but they're not as good as some other fighting duos on the region. Also, we haven't seen too much of them in off-spawn situations, and you do worry that if they do get to heat and if there is a team landing on them, that could potentially interrupt their progress. And also, we know that these guys are most comfortable in opens formats in the victory cups. When it comes to set lobby finals of the highest standard, they aren't as tested, but by no means should we be counting them out. They obviously have the potential to do well, and I'm very excited to see how they get on in the next few weeks. Now, maybe the highlight of the tournament was the off-spawn battle between 2 top duos. That was of course over at Dark Dominion. We had Vico and Malabuka facing off against Swizzy and Pixie, and it ended up being pretty even. Swizzy and Pixie won 2-1, but they were eliminated in the final game by Sky and Scroll after being weakened during the off-spawn. So honestly, neither team really came out on top, seeing as no one got a win. We do now have official confirmation that Vico and Malabuka have left Dark Dominion, and this is something that I was honestly expecting. I mean, as I said in my previous video, these are 2 of the best duos on the region, and neither of them are going to be content to not have a POI. They will both feel like they deserve to alpha a spot, to have somewhere completely for themselves. They're not just going to sit there and fight for the whole season. We know that. And now Vico and Malabuka are landing at the north side of Frigid Fortress, which of course means they will be contesting Darm and Demush, so we'll have to see how that goes. If you know your EU history, then the spawn fight with Darm and Demush involved does tend to be quite chaotic, although this time round there won't be any French players involved, so maybe it won't be quite as dramatic. Now, we saw the return of a great duo in this tournament, and that was of course Ping and Wox. Now, first things first, this is not a confirmed new team. It could still happen, I'll speak about it in a second, but it was only because Vanya was wasn't playing the tournament because he was travelling to France. He will now be on 0 ping for foreseeable tournaments. But listen, I felt like it was only a matter of time before we saw Ping and Wox reunite in some capacity. Listen, with how poor Vanya and Wox have been, I mean, they've not been placing in anything. They've not looked great even in the finals that they have qualified for. And with the excellent history that Ping and Wox do have, they of course came 5th in Globals 2024. Could we see some duo changes? I do think it could be on the cards. Chino and Pablo Wingu qualified for finals. They landed over at Sandy Strip and they were able to get the whole POI uncontested. This was following their tweet on Thursday where they stated that they were done splitting the POI and that they would fight anyone who landed on them. We'll have to see whether this lasts. I'm sure that for a POI this big, they won't be able to keep it uncon for long, especially in a region as volatile as the EU, but we'll have to see how they get on. We also had Sky and Scroll qualify, but they of course land at battle with Boulevard, and if you take a look at the map here, you'll see that it was incredibly congested. They did manage to finish inside the top 10 twice, but they weren't able to win a game. And finally, before I discuss the teams that missed out, credit to AzitGo and iFrozy. They're a team that were previously landing at Sandy Strip. They're now landing at the split near Swift Shard, and they managed the 2nd and the 4th place. Credit to them. Now listen, this is only an eval cup, so I don't want to go on for too long about all the teams that didn't make it, but I will discuss a few of the big names. We had Shark and Teeny not qualify. They finished 144th in the Opens, missing out on the top 50 required. Interestingly, we had Gonzo and Kaisers land at Wonky Land in Shark and Teeny's absence. That's a completely new duo. Whether it's one that's going to stick, I'm not too sure. Honestly, I still think that Gonzo splitting with Pradage was a big mistake, and yes, Pradage is now playing with Ankido, but that Pradage Gonzo duo had potential, I'm convinced of it. We had Higgs and Pump nearly make it, the NA duo. They managed a 62nd place finish. 1 place below that we had the Mongrel and Turtle also narrowly missing out, and in 65th place we had Savage and Velo also not qualifying. Queasy failed to qualify for finals. He did not have the start to the season that he would have hoped for, but honestly it wasn't entirely his fault. There was a bug where he couldn't get into a load of games and that pretty much stopped him from qualifying. He was playing with Haris, Murstache was away, I'm presuming on some gentlemates business. 589th for Queasy and Haris. It's not ideal, but there are extenuating circumstances. In terms of other teams that qualified, we had Fito and Skavi make it. This is an all-Serbian duo, and they landed at the South Desert Split, which is interesting because this is actually where Savage and Velo have planned to land this season, which means if both of these teams are qualifying for finals, we could see them contesting each other. And also, I've got to give big credit to an NA West team that managed to qualify for the EU finals. That's an insane achievement. Credit to Refine and Evolved. Their best placement in the finals was 18th, which honestly isn't even that bad. Honestly, I hope we see more NA teams put in the work and qualify on EU, because in my opinion, there's nothing stopping them from doing it, and this is great evidence of that. Yes, the time zones aren't ideal, I can appreciate that, but in my opinion, more American pros should be making the effort to perform on EU. And here's a list of some other new duos that didn't qualify for the finals. As you can see, Hutty and Fishy X are still not playing together. They of course split in the final divisional cup of the season when Hutty didn't get back from a Czech LAN and they didn't end up queuing the tournament whatsoever. Listen, Fishy X is now with Domla, and we know that Fishy isn't someone who can speak English, so he is limited to Czech speaking teammates. That does certainly restrict his options. For someone of his quality, he should have access to a higher tier of players, but we'll have to see how they get on. Hutty is of course of Lixium as well. Interestingly, X-Ray and Chris C did not play this tournament together. I don't know whether that's a full split or not, because they have been playing with each other for a while, but X-Ray was with Two Trash and Chris C was with Trucio. So hopefully you guys are now clear on which teams did well in the first cup of the season. Now let's talk about the new meta. What did we learn from the Eval Cup? Well, firstly, with less movement, with a low mobility meta, games die a lot quicker, and that is something that is going to be an issue for the rest of the season. Listen, there's a positive way to spin this. This meta definitely rewards teams that think hard about their rotations. As Snizen says here, the wingsuit last season did allow teams to make a lot of easy rotates without thinking about it too hard, so to bring that skill gap back into the game can be perceived as a positive, and honestly, I'm interested to see how these tournaments play out. I know the nitro fists are coming back into the game, which is something that is obviously a terrible idea. An item that can instantly break through fully built brick has no place in the game. I feel like that's honestly just common sense. Yes, it would bring some sort of rotation to the game, but I'd rather just have a lower mobility meta and not have to worry about nitro fists. Quick update, because the nitro fists have been added to competitive. As you can see from this clip, they are very powerful. Apparently they only do 40 damage to structures though, which means that they are somewhat balanced. So maybe there's hope for this item after all. It also only has 20 uses, which I quite like. Yes, it is a little bit too generous. I do think it will make rotation quite easy, but I'm definitely feeling more positive about it now compared to when I recorded this video. Let's get back into it. Anyway, the bottom line is we are now in a meta where movement is much harder. The positives are teams have to think more about their rotates, but the negatives are that max pull zones can really end games. Because of that, we're seeing duos get to end game with hardly any materials, and the matches do die out quite quickly, as Coach Frostbite points out here. I like Frostbite's point that fraggers will do well in this meta, because with everyone scuffed, with everyone weak, it will just be a case of who can fight well in the end game, and honestly that could be quite entertaining to watch. I personally think it's going to be very interesting to see which teams can adapt to the low movement meta. Honestly, I can't remember the last time we had a meta like this. Previously there's been so many movement items. You've had the wingsuits, the bats, the mist forms, the masks, and now there's pretty much nothing. It will definitely be interesting to see which teams maintain their performances in such a drastically different meta. Honestly, I'm kind of down to have one season without too much movement. Yes, I do prefer the seasons where we have fun, balanced, unique items like the bats, like the masks, but for a one-off, I think we can tolerate this. I think it will be a nice change of pace, and I'm honestly excited. Personally, I hope they either keep things the way they are and remove the nitro fists, or if they slightly buff the shockwaves, I wouldn't be too unhappy with that either. But for one season, for a low movement meta, I'm excited. However, one thing that I think everyone can agree on is that the new shotgun is way too broken. The Chaos Reloader shotgun is so strong, it does insane amounts of damage. You can hit someone like 150 body, which is just ridiculous. I mean, in the hands of top throws, this thing is lethal, and LFI did make a point that I think a lot of people will agree with, saying that it is way too strong and it really should be nerfed. It is a slightly tough one because it is a fun item to use, and I quite like the gimmick with it, that it auto reloads. That's something that definitely separates it from previous items we've had. I just think they need to tone down the damage stats a little bit, and then it has a perfect place in competitive. After watching the first tournament, I'm very excited for the season. Assuming they get rid of the nitro fist, the meta is in a good place. Yes, they could make a couple of small changes to some of the items, but honestly, it's in a good spot and I'm very excited. In terms of org news, we had two new signings. Dexy has officially joined XP42, whilst Acer has joined K13. Congratulations to both players. Listen, that's going to do it for this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. If you want to support me any further, then using code SPUDZONE in the Fortnite item shop is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one.